U.S. Senator Al Franken.
She left me with nothing. Nothing to say. What an amazing experience working with Alana. And it's great to be here with you all. Serving the people of Minnesota in the United States Senate has been the honor of my life. And I'm here tonight to say thank you. Many of you have heard me talk about what it was like for me to grow up here in Minnesota. My dad was a printing salesman. My mom sold real estate part-time. My brother and I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in St. Louis Park. We studied hard in school and played a lot of baseball and ate dinner in front of the TV. Good dinners. These were not TV dinners. Mom was a great cook. But we watched the TV news every night, watched Walter Cronkite. And I felt like the luckiest kid in the world. Because I was. I have spent my whole life feeling lucky and grateful to have grown up middle class in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. To have grown up feeling secure. To have grown up feeling that I could take a chance on myself, that I could go off to college, I could go into comedy, that I could write a book or start a radio show saying things that I thought needed to be said. And later on in life, I could ask the people of Minnesota to take a chance on me. When I first thought about running for office, I knew that our state and our country faced enormous challenges. I knew that for far too many families, that dream of a secure middle-class life was slipping further and further out of reach. I knew that the values that my parents taught me while we ate dinner and watched the news, justice, compassion, and integrity, had seemingly begun to vanish from our politics, and I hoped that I could make a difference. But I wasn't a professional politician. I'd never done anything like this before. I didn't know what to expect, and of course neither did Minnesotans. People knew that I was passionate about the issues, but they didn't know if I was serious about the work. They knew what I believed in, but they didn't know whether they could believe in me. All these years later, I am deeply proud of the work that I've been able to do on Minnesotans' behalf. Woo! Helping tens of thousands of Minnesotans gain access to health care. Writing the energy title in the Farm Bill, getting funding to rebuild the Buggo-Ganishig High School on Leech Lake. And so much more. But I'm also deeply humbled because I know that none of this work would have been possible without so many people. So many people who have worked for me or supported my campaigns or organized around the fights that I've taken on or just given me a chance to earn their trust. There are a lot of people here tonight that I want to thank, but I have to start with Franny. Politics is a hard job. I don't know how anyone manages to do it without being married to someone who is so loyal, so selfless, so tough, so caring. Frankly, I don't know how anyone manages to do it without being married to Franken. I know that I couldn't have. Franny has been by my side during every step of this journey, just as she has been throughout our 42 years of marriage. Frankly, for a lot of Minnesotans, the only reason they were willing to hear me out in the first place was that they met her and thought anyone who's, been willing to stay married that long, Franny's been willing to be married to for that long, he must have something going for him. Whatever it is that we do next, we will do it together. And while I can never thank her enough for her love, and support, I'm willing to spend the rest of my life trying. Franny's here tonight with our kids, Thomason and Joe, and our son-in-law, Brody. Stephanie's with some of the kids. I love them all so much, and I know many of you have come to love them as well. And I hope you'll join me in giving them a huge hand. Over the years, I've leaned hard on my family, but I've also leaned on a group of people who have become a lot like family to us, and that is my staff. As a parent, there's nothing more gratifying than having someone tell you how great your kids are. And as a senator, I hear all the time, about how great my staff is, how hard these men and women work, and how much they do for the people that we serve. I am constantly amazed by their brilliance, their dedication, their incredible creativity, their integrity, and more than occasionally, their sense of humor. More than occasionally. A little more. And I'm especially proud that so many of them have been with me for so long, like Alana Peterson, the leader of my team. Leader of my team in the state from day one, who knows more about Minnesota and has done more for Minnesota than just about anyone alive, except Walter Mondale. Alana told me to say that. So it was good staff work. Alana, good. To Alana and to everyone who's worked for me either on a campaign or in my offices in DC and in Minnesota, let me say this. One of the hardest things about leaving this job will be not getting to work alongside you every day. But I cannot wait to see what you'll do next. I will always be proud of you. I will always be grateful to you. And I will never, ever stop bragging about you. I also want to say thank you to my senior senator, Amy Klobuchar. I could not have asked for a better mentor in the United States Senate. Thank you, Amy. And I want to thank everyone who's been part of the people-powered grassroots machine that allows DFLers like me and Amy to win here in Minnesota. When I first started traveling around the state back in 2006, I met countless activists who have been pouring their energy into the important work of grassroots organizing for years, and sometimes even for decades. A lot of those folks would laugh if you describe them as political power players, but I have seen firsthand how much power there is in organizing a phone bank, or marching in a parade, or throwing a bean feed. And after all, when you win your first race by 312 votes, it really drives home how big a difference one person's work can make. Over the last few weeks, I've heard from a lot of DFLers around the state. Your words have meant a lot to me, and your work on behalf of the values we share has meant even more. Here's my promise to you. I may be leaving the Senate, but I'm not giving up my voice. We still have a lot of work to do together on issues ranging from net neutrality to climate change.
Broadband?
More rural broadband. You can't, Becky, you can't go wrong with rural broadband. Every person in this country should have access to the internet for learning and for business and rural broadband. This is what I'm saying. I'm ashamed I left it out of that part. And we still have to be ready to speak out for economic justice and to defend the truth. We still have terrific candidates worthy of the kind of incredible support that I've received, starting with my friend Tina Smith. And I still believe that the future belongs to those who are passionate and work hard. You know I had to get that Paul Wellstone vote in here somewhere, and to do it one more time, right? For me, and I know for many of you, it's hard to practice politics without thinking about Paul. Whether it's seeing one of his old bumper stickers at a silent auction at a bean feed, or working to advance the progress that he made on issues like improving mental health care and protecting women from domestic violence. Outside of Minnesota, a lot of people remember Paul for the way he wasn't afraid to take lonely stands for his progressive values. But many of us remember him not just for his courage, but for his compassion. Politics is about the improvement of people's lives, Paul said. And it was one of the first and one of the most important lessons that I learned when I decided to run for office. I remember very early on, we had a big rally up in Nashwauk on the Iron Range. Huge crowd, lots of energy, really exciting. I was great. Great. And then a few weeks later, I was in the locker room at HIPTAC at the taconite mine in Hibbing, and I met a miner who looked me in the eye and said, "What are you going to do to protect my pension?" I'd give a speech making a passionate argument for universal health care, and then I'd hear about a woman in Fergus Falls who had diabetes and who was sharing her insulin with her adult son who also had diabetes but couldn't afford insulin because he couldn't get covered because he had a pre-existing condition. Or I'd tell people about my plan for making college more affordable, and then I'd meet students in Mankato who were selling their blood to pay for housing or for tuition. I've carried the lesson with me every day of the 8.5 years that I've been in the Senate. You measure the impact you make not by how many arguments you win or even how many elections you win, but by how much actual progress you're able to make for actual people. I met a woman named Katie Johnson it was a mental health roundtable at a school in Mounds View. Katie was a single mom with a 9-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. And she told me that her son was out of control and that her life had become completely out of control. Then one day, Katie got a call from a woman who introduced herself as Katie's son's mental health advocate. See, the school had adopted a new approach to mental health in which every adult in the school had, and this is from the lunch lady to the principal, from the bus driver to the teachers, everyone had been taught to recognize when a kid was struggling, and then to connect that kid with one of the counselors or social workers. And that professional would meet with the kid and decide if that kid needed to be connected with the community mental health services. Katie told me that her son's mental health advocate had made sure that her son got diagnosed. He had Asperger's and ADHD, and treated. And it turned him around. And he started doing well in school. And he started taking Taekwondo. And Katie told me that her life had finally become manageable again. And she looked me in the eye, and she said to me, "I am now bulletproof." And I said, let's do this. Let's do more of this. Since then, we've gotten more than $100 million in new funding for that model of mental health in schools. I made sure that mental health in schools was included in the reform of No Child Left Behind. And Katie's son is now a black belt. Taekwondo. The improvement of people's lives, the lives of veterans who come home from serving our country overseas with the invisible wounds of war, thanks to the work that we've done, they can now be paired with service dogs that make their days a little easier. The lives of people with pre-existing conditions who once lived in fear that one illness or accident would mean certain financial ruin, thanks to the work that we've done. They now know the security that comes with health insurance. The lives of foster kids, whose lives are defined by change and uncertainty as they move from family to family. I got to know foster kids. Sometimes a typical foster child will have 7, 10, 12 different families in their lifetime. And thanks to the work we've done, even when they change schools, now and when they change foster families and go into a different school district, they can stay in the school that they were in. Because school is very often the only constant in a foster child's life. And at school, they have teachers that they really like, or they have found an activity that they really care about, or they have these things called friends. And one of the proudest things that I've done is make sure that a foster child who changes families can stay in that school. I, of all people, know that politics can be frustrating. That was a laugh line. But if you remember that lesson, that it is about the improvement of people's lives, and it can also be rewarding in many ways you'd never expect. For example, some of the most meaningful and productive relationships I've formed have been with Republicans here in Minnesota. Some of whom I imagine worked pretty hard to prevent me from ever becoming a senator in the first place. And some of the most significant progress I've been able to make on issues ranging from rural health care to workforce development has come from roundtable discussions with Minnesotans who didn't vote for me or maybe didn't vote at all. I'll never know, and I really don't care. And also on broadband. The politics focused on the improvement of people's lives is bigger than any one moment, bigger than any one man. It lives on, as it has for generations, through the hard work of ordinary men and women, ready to come together to build a better world for their kids. Thinking about politics that way makes the progress that we've made feel worth the hard work that it took to achieve it, and it makes the challenges we still face seem less insurmountable. And when I think about the last decade or so of my life through the lens of the people I've met, the people I've had the privilege to work alongside of, the people whose lives I've had the honor of fighting to improve, I feel hopeful for the future of our country. I feel proud to call this state my home and to call so many of you my friends. I feel grateful beyond words for the support that you have shown me and for the trust that you have placed in me and for the chance you took on me. I feel the same way I did growing up all those years ago in St. Louis Park, like the luckiest kid in the world. Thank you all.